The three pillars in our natal chart, or the big three, are the sun, the moon, and the ascendant. They are the pillars of the chart because they set the stage for which life will unfold through a storyline. Since my focus is on shadow work, I would like to share how the sun, the moon, and the rising, which is also the same as the ascendant sign, can be understood through the context of healing our emotional wounds. Welcome to Starwell Astrology. Hi, my name is Shari, and I am a Western tropical astrologer, and I specialize in shadow work. If you like this video, please don't forget to like, and if you have not subscribed, I would appreciate your subscription because it really does help my channel to grow. There are many theories on how much free will we actually have, and this cannot be determined for sure, but I would like to share my perspective on this. The ascendant sign, also known as the rising sign, is represented as what is fated. It is believed that 33 to 50% of life is predetermined. Therefore, we have no free will based on our ascendant sign. The moon is believed to be more flexible, and this is where we have 25 to 33% of free will. However, we must be willing to work with our moon, which is our emotional wounding, to get access to the free will that we have through our moon sign. The sun is our source of existence and will offer us the opportunity to use our free will to gain freedom from the ego identity that is defined by the ascendant sign. Around 25 to 33% of free will is available through the sun sign should we allow ourselves to be empowered through our personal will and align in our solar power, which is our divine will or spirit. Spirit is a direct connection to our soul. These three pillars are crucial to know oneself. And this is called gnosis, to know thyself. I also don't think that the percentage matters that much, as a realization that although we have autonomy in how we're choosing to live our lives, there are certain things in our lives that are preordained and therefore set in stone, since we are here to work on specific karmic wounds. And starting with the ascendant or the rising sign, each sign moves through the horizon approximately every 2 hours. The ascendant represents the physical body and our identity, which is our personality. Although there are many views on when the soul enters the body, whether it's sometime while we're in the mother's uterus or immediately at birth, no one can say for sure, but in astrology, the ascendant or the rising sign is determined from the perspective that the soul enters the body from the east, and therefore the astrological sign on the horizon, the moment we enter the world and take our first breath, is our rising sign or ascendant sign. This is why knowing your location and your exact time of birth is essential for an accurate natal chart reading, because the ascendant sign and the degree is based on the location and time of birth and is therefore the starting point of the natal chart. So the ascendant sign is extremely important because it determines one's life path. And it also establishes where the remaining signs and house cusps will fall in the chart. Since the ascendant degree determines the rest of the chart, it is therefore seen as the most essential point for describing one's identity. The ascendant describes our external life, such as the family we were born into, our culture, our gender, our race, and so forth. Our appearance, temperament, our personality is seen from the ascendant. The body we are born into and our environment is also predetermined. It's where the soul enters into matter, and the ego identity or personality is shaped from this placement. So we should also take into consideration that any planet on the ascendant or in the first house will also play an important role in influencing the personality of that individual. Although I am narrowing down this description of the ascendant, there is a lot more to consider because we are multi-layered, complex beings. And so to describe the ascendant without considering the rest of the natal chart is a very general delineation. But from the perspective of shadow work, if you have watched my previous videos, I have explained why the ascendant or rising sign is the conditioned personality that shapes the ego identity. I call this the false self because it is the part of us that is conditioned to live from expectations based on our culture, our education, our gender, and systems of beliefs such as religion and so forth. Early in life, we do not have the freedom to choose or change this. And even when we can, as we get older, most of us will have a very strong attachment to our conditioned self or false self because we're groomed into believing it is who we are. But this is really our mask. We're conditioned to wear this mask and we believe it is our personality. It is necessary that we distinguish our own uniqueness as an individual person, but the identifications with our conditioned persona is so strong that we have learned to derive our sense of self from this aspect of the self. Although these are really programmed ideas and beliefs, they are so strong some might feel offended by the idea of calling the personality a false self or mask. Identifications to the false self are so strong, and unless or until we do shadow work, we cannot see that we have been conditioned to believe this is us. It is really a composition of believed in ideas that create a self-image. And so we might be willing to defend this false sense of self even to our own detriment. So the ascendant or rising sign is how we show up in the world and respond to our reality, but this is really based on conditioned beliefs. The ascendant sign will also define how others see us, although others, in truth, in our reality, are only a projection and mirror of ourselves. It is believed from an astrological perspective that the rising sign has no free will because it represents all the baggage that we bring with us from our past lives or ancestry line. In other words, it represents both the gifts and burdens of our karma. The situations we are born into are here to work on in this lifetime. And this comes from karmic wounds that we need to heal from past lives or from our ancestry. However, we might enter the world through karmic blessings from past lives. So we might be born into a happy family filled with love. But even in this case, we can create situations that will bring up wounding that we need to work on. But it might not be as challenging, although healing and evolving at a soul level is the whole point of being born. Unfortunately, life can be so hypnotic that we need difficult challenges to force us to wake up to heal. So most of us, or some of us, will have a heavier karmic burden to bear through with the hope that we awaken and heal so that we can evolve at a soul level. We might be born into a violent household or have an impoverished life, but this is considered to be predetermined, therefore fated, since this is beyond our control when we're infants. We can only take action from where we come into the world, and this is based on the conditions we find ourselves in at birth. So this is the only place we can start our hero's journey. From here forward, what we do with our lives is up to us, at least to a certain degree. And although we have no free will with the ascendant sign, we can make a quantum shift in our perspective through our moon and our sun sign. The moon is the gateway, if we choose to use it for healing our emotional wounds, and the sun is the golden ticket to freedom through self-realization. The moon is the most intimate point in the chart. The moon changes signs every 2.5 days, and the moon is the astral or emotional body which is connected to our soul's karma. Therefore, it is the source of all past lives, all memories, whether conscious or unconscious. It's our blood, our DNA, our bloodline that runs through all generations and ancestral lineage through all lifetimes. The moon is receptive energy, so it is the receiver of light, but also it reflects light from the sun since it has no light of its own. Similarly, since all the planetary bodies live within us, the moon is the emotional body that stores all the information of all lifetimes called karma within our bodies through our DNA or blood. And although the moon is our emotional body, it is not our emotions. That would be Venus. The moon instead is related to the expression of our emotions and therefore not our actual emotions. The moon allows us to reflect what we feel based on our emotional state of mind. The moon sign shows us how open and accessible we are to our feelings and which is our emotional truth. Therefore, the moon determines how adaptable or flexible we are in filtering our or processing what we feel. The moon is receptive, so it receives or intuitively picks up on information on an energetic level. And based on its emotional filters, will reflect what it feels back into its external environment. Life is a continuous cycle of attraction and projections. Our reality is mirrored by the moon's emotional filters based on its receptivity and reflectivity. The moon is our internal environment, and therefore our true state of mind is seen from our moon sign. However, most of us are unconscious of our real state of mind. Most of our thoughts and feelings are unconsciously running in an automatic feedback loop that repeats the same thoughts over and over again. This repetitive cycle happens unconsciously and automatically, and it's retelling a story that we are familiar with and also comfortable with. And it allows us to process our reality based on that feedback loop that is actually quite automatic. The moon sign is where we want to feel safe and comfortable. Therefore, this is our private and intimate side. Our thought processes will operate unconsciously as a protective mechanism to shield us from our true feelings. Believe it or not, most of us fear or resist our true feelings because we are uncomfortable with them. From a very early age, we're taught to deny our unpleasant feelings. Being angry or throwing a temper tantrum is unacceptable. So we learn to deny this part of us. The moon is where we want to feel nurtured, needed, and loved. So we want to belong. Now, we've learned to adapt to our close environment and to the people that we want to have love from and be nurtured by. So we learn to filter our unpleasant and uncomfortable feelings. The moon shows us how or what we receive or reject because it's the filter that we use to scan our reality and therefore allow or reject what we can process and assimilate on an emotional level. The moon is where we feel very sensitive and vulnerable, so it affects our emotional security. We naturally want to protect our moon because it is where we are most vulnerable. The moon reveals our real needs and also will show us what really makes us happy. If you really want to get to know someone and make them happy, you need to know their moon sign because it's a sensitive point. Most will not allow others to see this side of themselves unless they feel safe and comfortable enough to let down their guard. The moon will show us our ability to nurture ourselves and others. It represents our basic needs and what makes us feel comfortable and relaxed in a private setting, such as our home with our close family members. Reality is perceived through conditioned filters activated through emotional triggers. And the moon is our emotional sensibilities and sensitivities. Therefore, it's our intuition. When we have learned to disregard our true feelings at an early age, we have also learned to disregard our intuition. The moon also represents our subconscious and emotional programming, our self-soothing mechanisms. It's how we adapt. It represents our health because it also represents our body, especially in females. It is our psychosomatic health, meaning our mental is affected by the moon. Our safety and security and how we are nurtured and how we nurture others is shown by the moon. And the moon also rules the mother, women in general, and our home and family. The moon also rules the fourth house in the natal chart, which is the root or foundation of the natal chart. It is an important planet because without strong roots or a solid foundation will topple. The moon is best understood when we are internally focused, which is essential for shadow work, because this helps to give us more solid foundation. We start to understand who we are at base level. And when you know who you are at base level, you can build from this in an authentic way. The practice of self-witnessing or self-observation is vital for accessing our moon sign. The moon sign is the inner landscape that will manifest the external reality, and all planets pass through the filters of the moon sign. So we see the world through the conditioned filters of our moon sign. Becoming aware of this is key to accessing the unconscious and hidden aspects of self, which is the ego identity. And this ego identity has a shadow side. There are two inner aspects which are at odds, and that is the ego identity and the shadow side. They're always going to battle with each other, trying to deny each other. And it's their union. When they merge together in even-mindedness, they create an inner union, and they can give us access to opening us up to a higher level of consciousness. Because once we become aware of them and they become integrated into being a part of our psyche, once healed, of course, then they give us access to higher levels and higher states of our true essence. Our true self is blocked from our awareness due to the fear of facing ourselves just as we are. Facing ourselves with all our wounds is very uncomfortable for a moon sign that really just wants to feel safe. But to deny, avoid, and resist what we truly feel, even if it's unpleasant, is the work of healing at a soul level. And to acknowledge that we have a wounded side, a shadow side, is required to really know thyself. So I want to give an example of how our reality works based on our moon sign. So let's think of an old-fashioned film projector. If you're very young, you might not know what this is, but hopefully some of us do. So in this film projector, the film filters the light that comes through the projector. The moon is that filter. It has no light of its own, so it can only reflect the light of the sun onto Earth, just as the movie projector's light gets filtered through the film strip to cast images on a screen to show the actors in the movie. So the moon's filter affects how we receive or reflect the light of the sun, which is the source of light. And I also want to add that the actor in the movie is playing the lead role as the character or personality, which is our ascendant. The character's emotional response in the movie, called life, is our moon sign. So it's important to note that the image on the screen is impossible without the source of the light, which is the sun sign. The moon can be seen as the film which filters the pure light of the sun. And this is how we are perceiving reality through our moon sign. So all thoughts and all feelings must get assimilated through the emotional filters of the moon. The moon is the key planet in shadow work. It is pivotal to shadow work. When we get to know our moon, we're getting to know ourselves because we're beginning to become more vulnerable and we're able to witness our emotional needs, which are usually centered around our wounds. And this can help to get access to our emotional truth. So when we become aware of the mask of the ego identity, a personality that we believe defines us, we realize that reality is being expressed through our personal beliefs and conditioned programmed expectations, which has cast a shadow on our authentic self or soul. We're beginning to awaken to our true self when we can see this. So, what is the authentic and true self? That's a fair question. Well, it is your sun sign. It is the source of light from the projector. The moon is very important for shadow work because, as I've said before, because it does give us access to the hidden and unconscious side of us. It is a powerful pillar in the natal chart for accessing our emotional wounded self. And when we're working with our moon sign, we can pierce the veils of our illusion, get to the ego identity, which is the conditioned self or mask, and witness how we feel defined by the ascendant sign. How we're seen in the world and how we see the world through the filters of the moon will show how we're responding to our reality. When we start to witness how we're operating in the world based on a programmed agenda, then the moon will reveal our emotional wounds. Awareness of our emotional wounds makes it conscious, and then we become conscious of our behavior and also our emotional reactions. Everything we do in the world of form comes from a triggered emotional reaction. And when healed through shadow work, this becomes a conscious response to life instead of an automatic reaction. Our subconscious memories, our emotional wounded patterns keep us stuck in a loop of repetitive patterns based on one's moon sign and house placement. We can make the choice to be more flexible and be more willing to become aware of ourselves through the practice of self-witnessing, to know our emotional state of mind. And this is the gateway to healing. Our emotional state of mind determines how we are perceiving our reality and recreating more of the same from the wounded mindset. And this can always be changed because filters can be removed or adjusted based on one's desire or readiness to do the work to heal. And this is why the moon sign can help us to heal. Healing the moon sign means we're healing karma, which is the real work of the soul. But this does require that we take the needed steps to act on free will to break the chains of karmic wounded patterns. The sun sign. This is our ethereal causal body, but on a more practical level, it is also regarded as the mental body. The sun takes about 30 days to move through each sign. The sun sign is said to be the only place that we have 100% free will. We are given the same amount of free will as the moon, which is 25 to 33%. And when we're working with our moon sign to heal our wounded limitations, then we can get access to the full illuminating qualities of our sun's abundance. The sun's light is unlimited, therefore it represents pure consciousness. The sun is unlimited, and therefore it represents pure consciousness. It is the source of all things. The sun is the true and authentic self, the I am presence before we are conditioned to become an ego identity or conditioned personality. The sun reveals our purpose and our mission and is expressed through the roles we're here to play. The role we play as a character on the stage called life should be performed consciously and therefore come through a deep divine connection to spiritual inspiration in order to be aligned in our true purpose. The sun is our individuality. It's our individual self-expression and unique creative potential. It is pure intelligence. The sun rules our father figures, authority figures, and the sun also rules the 10th house, which is our career, our leadership qualities, and public status. It is the highest and most visible point in the chart. And so it is where we are most visible to others. I want to say this. Most of us are looking for a purpose in life, and we all have a role to play or a task to perform on a material level, and this can bring some meaning and purpose to our life. But the real purpose that we all have is to know who we are at a soul level. Any other purpose outside of this is an added bonus. However, I say this realizing that most of us are not ready to hear this truth because we still are very attracted to external life, expecting our external environment to give us something that we think is missing in ourselves. Therefore, we're always focused on our outer life. We don't want to take our eyes off the ball, fearing we'll lose something that we have earned or worked hard to achieve. We fear that we might fall short of our expectations based on what we believe will bring us a better life. In general, our day-to-day lives are very demanding of our attention, so it's hard to qualify giving more attention or focus to our soul, which is invisible, silent, undemanding. It's in the background of our life. But the soul is the true self. And getting access to this aspect of ourselves is our real mission and purpose and should not be dismissed so easily. The sun's path is the hero's journey to our soul. The sun is the source of the self. Just as the sun in the sky is the most powerful source of light, the sun illuminates reality to animate the soul through our life force in the body. The sun is self-centered. Therefore, it is in its lower expression, it might seem to represent success in the world, our goals and our achievements. The sun in its lower expression is referred to as the ego identity that wants to fulfill some sort of external purpose and goal. The sun is seen as self-confidence, but this can be taken two ways. We can be self-centered in the limited ego identity, striving towards our external goals, or we can center inwards into ourselves to know that we are the source of all lives and be more empowered in learning that we are conscious beings and can make conscious choices, knowing that we are the unlimited self in our highest expression. The sun is directly related to spirit, the pure light, the pure white light of our inner divinity, which is the source of all things in our reality. Divine guidance is essential. Otherwise, we will not have true inspiration that feeds the pure essence and passion of the heart for real fulfillment in life. Instead, without getting in touch with our true essence, our soul will only manifest the lower expressions of the sun sign. The sun's path is the path back to ourself. The true and authentic self is discovered when we find the way back to our inner throne, where we sit in the seat of our soul and are crowned in the illumination of spirit. None of this is an external accomplishment, but we tend to externalize everything, mostly because we cannot meet ourselves in our true state. To know who we are is an inner realization that takes place through the quantum shift, a shift in our paradigm. And this is what some might call an awakening that leads to the alchemical ascension process in the body. Therefore, the direction that we take is not an external act, but an inward exploration of the self, even as we continue to live outwards. a desire to sit within ourselves and know who we are at our core essence. We discover that we are the only source of our reality. It's not an external thing the way we have been conditioned to believe, but we are conditioned to focus on an external superior savior. But this takes us away from us actually looking into ourselves. This programming is designed to feed the desires to search for something external to add to ourselves because we are conditioned to believe that we are the little me, powerless in a very big world. Nothing could be further from the truth. Our sun sign is pointing us back to ourselves. The sun sign represents the I am presence, the self that exists before one is conditioned into becoming a personality. When we ask, who am I, from the place of being the ego identity or the personality, this gets expressed as the little me in a very big and scary world where we look for something or someone to save us. But when we ask from a place of alignment in spirit, our higher consciousness, we know that we are the authentic expression of consciousness, an expression of God, Source, the Absolute, or oneness, whatever you want to call what you know came first, that is greater than the little me. And although this might be a dream referred to as Maya, it certainly feels real. But we're not powerless. We have the ability to wake up. To awaken from our sleep state or amnesia, we get to know that we are centered in divine spirit as an individual soul with the autonomy of our personal will to make conscious choices for ourselves within the boundaries of a material matrix. But these choices are more crucial to us than we might realize because we can determine if we stay stuck in the cycle of karma or start awakening through the healing process of shadow work, or more appropriately, we should call this soul work. At a certain point, based on how many lifetimes we have lived, or possibly what is based on our soul family's evolutionary process to heal our karma and advance at a soul level, we get to know, not just believe, but know that the world we perceive can only exist within us, through us, and from us. Therefore, the world we perceive through our very own eyes is an expression of ourselves. Since we are pure consciousness, we are bigger than our little world that we have created for the purpose of working on our karma. So the sun is much more important in our natal chart than we might realize. However, most of us are living from the lower expression of our sun sign because it is overtaken by the conditioned ego identity, the mask we wear in the world that is represented by the ascendant sign, where we have no free will. So an example I gave previously about the movie projector, the sun being the light and the light of the projector is the source that illuminates the screen called life. Ultimately, we are a sun sign, but we are also the moon that filters what we project onto the screen. We're also the ascendant sign, which is the actor or character that is playing the part in the movie called life. The actor gets caught up in the drama of the story and forgets that he is only playing a part in the movie and that he has created. He is now identified with his role in the movie, but his true essence is the source of light from which the movie gets illuminated. Without the light from the sun as the illuminating source and expression of consciousness that allows for one to exist as a unique and individual person, there would be no light, therefore no screen for the movie we call life to play itself out. Getting to know our moon and sun sign will give us access to our free will. We are programmed to operate from believing we are a limited person in a very big world, but we have far more power than that. But from a more objective perspective, we are really our sun sign that gets expressed through the limited filters of the moon's conditioned mind to become a character playing a role on the stage called life. So in summary, the 3 points are important pillars in the chart. But in my opinion, especially from the perspective of shadow work, the sun sign is where we are here to develop and become more confident in who we are as a pure soul. From our sun sign, we have the potential to become our authentic self, but we need to heal through our moon sign to get to know thyself more intimately. We do this when we learn to witness, then acknowledge, accept, face, and then heal our wounded parts, allowing our shadow side to become integrated into our personality so that we are authentically aligned in our true self. Since our only currency we can really bring with us through each lifetime is our soul, then when we choose to take birth in this reality, our mission and purpose is much bigger than money, titles, status, and achievements. When we die, we leave them behind. We are ultimately here for our soul's purpose, which exceeds all personal purposes. If we can blend the two, that would be ideal, but sometimes they're at odds. The work is really to find a balance so that we can integrate all parts of ourselves into a true alignment with who we are. What will bring us the most value in the long run, not just for this lifetime, but on a personal, ancestral, generational, collective level, is the work we do to heal on a soul level, which is linked to our karma. How can we best contribute to bring more value to our soul's currency? It's to evolve and advance energetically through each life cycle. We're here to alchemize the heavy lead of the ego into the more refined qualities and gold of the soul. So thank you for joining me, and I hope that you will consider subscribing if you have not already, and please hit the like button if you liked this video. Also, I do offer natal chart readings and shadow work. My information is below. Thank you for joining me and hope to see you next time.